All right, guys, I want to tell you about BDP. That's Bunch's Diesel Performance. This is a company owned by my good friend Jonah Bunch, and he is the premier diesel guy in the industry. If you guys are looking for a truck, hit Jonah up at BDP. He can help you out with that. He has access to vehicles that you're not going to be able to find if you're looking for something specific. Jonah can take you all the way through that process, from finding the right truck for you, purchasing, transporting, getting it to his shop, making any modifications, or running through any checks or assessments that you need to run the vehicle through before it comes to you. Any upgrades, you name it, Jonah can help you get into the vehicle that you have always wanted to drive. And if you already own a diesel truck and you're looking to make some modifications to either bring it up to date or add performance to your rig, Jonah is the dude, him and his team, that you need to talk to, all right? If you don't live near his shop, he has the ability to get your vehicle to his shop and to get the work done that you want to get done, and then to get it back to you, no matter where you are in the country. What's awesome about working with BDP and Jonah and his team is that you can trust them. At least I'm vouching for my friend. I've done a lot of awesome stuff over the years with Jonah. He's been my buddy. He's been close to me for years and years now. And that's one of the biggest problems when you're looking to get work done on your rig, or you're looking to purchase something new and really get into the vehicle that you've always wanted. The hardest part is finding a shop that you can trust, not only to be responsible with your money, but to provide quality work. You're going to get that from BDP. So you guys check them out. Jonah's website is bunchescustoms.com. There will be a link in the description of this episode. You can find him on Instagram. We'll attach a link in there too. And also on YouTube. He's putting out a lot of awesome content from his shop. Information that you guys, free information that will be valuable to you guys who enjoy learning about diesel trucks and seeing builds and just the cool stuff that happens around there. So if you guys get anything out of the show, this is one way that you guys can give back, is by checking out Jonah, giving him a call, and next time you need some work done, or you're really looking to get into the rig you've always wanted, working with him to move in that direction. Love you guys. All right, outstanding. Bryson Lipscomb.
Yes, sir.
Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
Hey, I took Chili's advice. First of all, you can't find Bryson's last name anywhere on the internet. So I had to ask him today, what is your last name? So that was perfect. Dude, thank you for coming on the show.
Dude, it's more than a pleasure. It's an honor.
Yeah, well, likewise, dude. I've been following you for a long time. And guys, if you're listening, this is Bryson from, well, actually the owner-operator of Triple Oaks Farm. You and your wife work together to manage the farm and everything that's happening out there. And we're going to dig into that and your journey and what's going on there and a lot of the struggles that you have had, bringing your calling to life and kind of the things that you figured out along the way, because what you and your family are doing, Bryson, is the ultimate way to like freedom and sovereignty as a human being. All right. We identify, both of us, as sons of God, as Christians, and that is our greatest hope. Yeah. But we're living in this life.
Yeah, right.
and the ultimate path to freedom and sovereignty in this life is the path that you guys are walking out. And to me, it's commendable. It's something that I aspire to do. It's breaking away from the system, and it's regaining control over just your ability to live.
Yeah.
And feed yourself and care for yourself and your family.
Yeah. It's controlling in this crazy world at least one part of our life, you know.
Big part.
Because we can't control a lot, right? And we spend a lot of time, probably wasted time worrying about things that we can't control. But feeding my family and myself and a small part of our community is something that I can control. And yeah, the fulfillment that comes with that, dude, is undefinable. You can't. I would encourage anyone to grow at least part of your diet. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to sharing it. It's been a journey, dude. We've got more stories, I think, in the first 5 years of running a farm than most. It has not been quiet, that's for sure.
Well, you came a long ways in 5 years, dude. Yeah. I mean, that's one of those super remarkable things about just following you. It's like if somebody checks out your Instagram page right now, Triple Oaks Farm, they're going to think, well, this dude's been doing it all his life. Mm-hmm. Because you're in a smokehouse, mm-hmm. preserving and smoking your own meat. You're processing animals. Mm-hmm. You're bringing back these ancient skills that man has lost. And it seems like it would take a lifetime to relearn those things because we have lost them. But I mean, you didn't grow up as a farmer, right?
No, I did not. Not at
That's
all.
Remarkable, man.
Yeah, my dad had some laying chickens in the back, and dude, that was one of my chores was that getting the eggs, watering those chickens, and cleaning out the hen house. And I loathed having to do that. I didn't want nothing to do with it.
It's a dirty job, man.
It is, yeah. And but that was the extent of my experience with farming, you know. And then as I moved out of my parents' home, it's not like I had been researching this for years or anything like that. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't have any inclination that I wanted to farm. It was never a desire of mine or my wife's. My wife didn't, I didn't grow up on a farm, but she grew up even further from anything like that. So it is amazing how I'm so proud of her, dude. The Lord has blessed me with an incredible partner to walk through this life with, and the things that she has taken on in this farm. I mean, I've seen that woman. She was a cheerleader in high school, very feminine woman, which I liked about her. We were in high school together. We went to church together, and I liked that she was a very put together female. You know, she wasn't a tomboy or anything, and we had a lot of those in our area, and I liked that she was like this prim and proper lady, you know what I mean? And she's a registered nurse. You know, she went to Liberty University and got her nursing degree, and that's what she did. And then fast forward a few years into this farm, I've seen her shoulder deep with her arm up in a sow's backside, I'll say, you know what I mean? It's like, didn't see this coming, and neither did she, but she dove in with me, and I think that's what a good wife does. And I tell her, we were talking the other day, dude, she's like, if I'm the car, the engine of this family, she's like the guardrails. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. She keeps me between the lines, and we all need that. But yeah, I guess I can start how we kind of came into farming.
Yeah, I'd like to go back even before that, because I think that's what's so uniquely inspirational to me personally about your story, and to people listening to this who might be feeling this urge to kind of break free from the system. They might be realizing that the system is a failing system when they're going to the grocery store and they realize that you got to kind of make a 6-figure income to eat steak 2 nights a week. And, a good organic grass-fed chicken breast is $20 a pack, $25 a pack. You're spending $50 on 4 chicken breasts. Vegetables from the grocery store don't taste like anything. They taste like water. A tomato doesn't taste like a tomato. Yeah. Things are intermittently out of stock. You can't even find them. The quality is iffy at best. And so people who are seeing this and feeling this urge to kind of break free from the system, I think the reason they can connect so much with your story, and the reason I've connected so much with your story, is because your story is unique. Guys like Joe Salatin, not to take anything from him, but he grew up in it. He inherited a farm.
Yeah.
And you look at somebody like that and you say, that's a big leg up. Right. That's not your story.
Yeah.
And so I want to even go back prior to you guys getting into farming and just talk about who you were kind of in your late teenage years on through to your military service and how all of that kind of plays into leading you to the place that you are today, man.
Well, and my testimony is going to work itself in there too.
Yeah.
So this might be a little lengthy.
Send it, man. I want to hear it.
So yeah, you know, as a teenager, well, as a kid, my whole life, I grew up, you know, my family, we were in church 3 times a week, you know, Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday evening. I did, you know, all the things you're supposed to do, you know, missions trips, youth groups, Awanas, you know, vacation Bible schools, camps, you know, all the things. And then as I got into my teenage years, I slowly started getting away from that. My parents were giving me more freedom to make my own decisions. And I started slipping away from that lifestyle. But it needs to be said, you know, just because I was going to church and doing all those things, I never had a relationship with Jesus Christ. I never did. I never read the Bible. I memorized Bible verses for Awanas so I could get me a candy bar. You know what I mean? But that's not a relationship with Yeshua. You know what I mean? And, you know, as I got older, I got further and further from even a resemblance of that. You know what I mean? And I always played football. I think a big part of my story, it comes down to purpose, because my whole life I've been looking for purpose and trying to find it in all the wrong areas, in all the wrong ways. And I played football my whole life since I was 5 to like 19, 20 years old. And I thought that was who I was, you know what I mean? And I went to a small college in Virginia, started as a freshman. I was playing, I was doing well, and I got hurt. And that was the first time that I was a student and not a student athlete. And I found out real quick that I mean, I always hated school, but I really hated it when I wasn't playing ball. You know what I mean? And I started getting kind of depressed because I didn't have that thing that I had been doing my entire life. I didn't have that purpose. And so that's when I really started drinking pretty heavily then, because I think I was just depressed. You know, I was just sad. I didn't have anything. I didn't have any goals or anything driving me to keep me on some kind of path. And I ended up basically flunking out of college. And that's when I decided to join the Army. I'd always admired the military. It's kind of hard not to in this country as a young man. I mean, it's so heavily, the propaganda that they put out is effective. You know what I'm saying? So I'd always admired them. There was always that Marine recruiter in my high school in his dress blues, you know, standing in the cafeteria.
Yeah, that looks different, man, when you're growing up in rural Georgia or Virginia and you see that. You're like, good night.
It's
what
so
is
different.
That, dude?
Yeah. And I'd always talk to the Marine recruiter and I always told him, like, I'm going to college to play football. I can't join the Marines, you know. But when I decided that I no longer was doing that thing, football or school, like, well, let's go get a job and do it in the military. So I went to the Marine recruiter. They didn't want nothing with me. You know, I told them that I had got an injury and no surgeries or anything, but they really weren't interested.
What was the injury?
I had my right shoulder. I had dove basically and landed on the backside of my arm, and the bone in my arm and my shoulder had basically smashed each other. So it was like internally fractured, and the ligaments in between were just really damaged. So it took a while to recover from that. But nothing like truly long term. You know what I mean? I had an MRI, and they wanted to see all these doctor's notes and this and that. And I was like, well, I don't have that, you know, and I'm certainly not going back to try to hunt those things down. You know, what you want me to do pull-ups on your little pull-up bar? I'll knock out 20, you know, and they didn't make it easy, I guess is what I'm saying. So in that area of Lynchburg, all the recruiters are in the same little strip mall. So I'll literally just walk down the sidewalk into the Army.
It was the same where I joined, man.
And
I joined in a mall. It was a Arbor Place Mall. And yeah, they were all in a row.
Yeah, I mean, it's convenient. And it was kind of, not to bash on the Marines, and this is, you know, just a one-off, I'm sure, but when I walked into the Marine recruiting office, you walk into the front door, and there was desks in this front area, and no one was at them. There was, like, stuff everywhere, like, kind of junky looking, and just this one woman in the back office who, like, when I came in, I stood there for a minute. I had my dad with me. And I was like, hello? And like this woman like pushes her little swivel chair into the door. She's in civvies and she's like, can I help you? And that was the start. I'm like, did I not just walk into a, what do you mean, can you help me? You know what I mean? Like,
they must have all been on their lunch break.
I don't know, dude. I'm like, I'm a 20-year-old, you know, I got a buzz cut and I always had, you know, I'm in shape. What do you mean? Can you?
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty obvious what I was here to do, you know, and I just got a bad taste. So I went to the Army recruiter, complete opposite. Everyone's in uniform. Every desk was manned. When I walked in, a guy stood up, introduced, you know what I'm saying? It was professional. And so that's where I started my recruiting process and decided to join the infantry because I had an uncle that had been in the infantry for a long time. He retired as a first sergeant. So I grew up kind of hearing stories from him, talking to him. You know, he was in Iraq several times. And so I had it on my mind. I wanted to be a grunt, you know. It was kind of like a bucket list item. I wanted to go see what war is like. Because like I said, you grew up seeing it on the news almost every night, especially post 2001, you know. And you see these little firefights they were covering. I shouldn't say little firefights. Sorry. You see these firefights, and it looked exciting. And I was like, I want to go see what that's all about.
Yeah.
Which kind of sounds a little crazy, but, you know, you're a young man in this country. It's
What year would this have been?
2011.
2011, okay. Yeah. Well, you grew up similar time as me. Yeah. Seeing it, hearing about it, and even prior to 01, I mean, I grew up, dude, G.I. Joes. I had a collection of G.I. Joes that would fill the studio, man, and the little plastic army men that were on the little platform thing, and you could set up tire battlefields and firecracker IEDs, and so, yeah, man, we grew up. I get that completely.
But this was, you know, joining the Army was my new purpose that I was chasing. I was so fired up, dude. I had a few months before I actually shipped off. And I was still living on campus at the time, just bunking with somebody, basically, not a student. They would bring me food from the chow hall, you know, make me a sandwich and bring it to me, and I would just be lifting weights and partying with everybody, and I was just that guy for a little while. Kind of a weird time, but I would be sitting in the dorm room with my laptop watching. This is so corny after you've been in it, but I would just be watching and listening to cadences because I thought it was the coolest thing. I was like, these guys running around like Ranger, you know, all the things. It's like, yeah, like we're going to
I get that, dude.
I was so fired up. And this was going to be my new thing. This was my purpose. I thought this was my calling in life, you know. And so I shipped off to Fort Benning, Georgia, to go to Sand Hill. That's where all the infantry guys are trained. And I did that. They ended up giving me an airborne slot, or actually it was they were going to send me to what's called RASP, the Ranger Assessment Selection Program, which they send you to airborne school first. And so I went to airborne school, and at that time, I was so sick of training. I mean, infantry is like 3 months. You know, there's no beginning phase, and then AIT, which is like more relaxed. It's all just kind of sucks. the whole time. And then I was in airborne hold, is what they call it, for another month, basically, which you might as well still be in basic training. So it's like I'm still not in the Army. You know, I'm sweeping parking lots for no reason, getting smoked for no reason. You know what I mean? No freedom. And I really didn't like that. Not that anybody does, but I was just ready to go work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I went to RASP, and I was there for another couple months. Ended up getting, I was going to get medically, what do they call it? Where you start over.
Medically rolled?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, that was just 2 weeks of real suck. I really don't want to do that again. So I dropped out. And I always regretted doing that. But at that time, I was not in the right headspace to do something like that.
What did you have going on?
Terrible shin splints.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't hardly walk. All the athletics that I had done my whole life, everything, basketball, football, wrestling, I had never had anything like that. But I had never walked around with a big rucksack on my back for dozens of miles either. You know what I mean? And I'd never felt, and I was like, what is happening to me? And I was also I had the worst chafing from like my knees up to my groin, all the way up my butt to my, those old Alice packs.
Oh, yeah.
That ride along your
I've
lower
done
back.
Many miles with one of those old green Alice packs, dude.
Like my back is bleeding, bro. I'm like, okay. So when they took me back and they're like, you're going to rest for 2 weeks and then start over, I was like, fat chance, dude. Send me to the first thing smoking out of here. And at that time, there were so many guys that were no longer going through the program or quit for whatever reason, like myself, and they just had to get rid of us. So normally you would get sent to an airborne unit because you're airborne certified. But I got sent to Fort Stewart, which is the 3rd Infantry Division, mechanized. And I was like, what? These aren't my people, but it was what it was. And I got actually stuck with a support battalion at first, and it was like one squad of infantry dudes, and I'm still friends with those guys, but we all hated it because we're with like these chemical guys and these pogues, and
it's not pusher. It wasn't what you expected it or dreamed of it to be. Yeah,
this is not what I signed up to do.
Yeah,
we weren't doing anything high speed. You know what I mean?
That's interesting about the military, man. First of all, shin splints, I had the same thing. I remember when I was trying to pass my PST just to get a SEAL contract, I would go and run like a 1.5 mile run, and the next day I would try to stand up out of bed, and when my feet would touch the ground, I would fall onto the ground. Mm-hmm. They hurt that bad. It's like your legs are your bones are broken.
That's what it feels
and you
like.
will fall to the ground. But the military, man, it's interesting, like you said, the propaganda that's pumped out and the stories that are woven by the DOD, or I guess it's Department of War now, and just the government as a whole. They weave these stories like, what is it with what do they call it with Marcus Luttrell, the lone survivor. Yeah. Like you read all these heroic stories, and you read about and see movies about these battles and these big fights, and so you think that's what it's going to be. Mm-hmm. And you realize that those few instances that you grew up reading about or watching movies about were like this little, it was like the one little tiny piece of what's actually happening. Yeah. And all of these dudes that we all as young men were looking up to as these war fighters and these heroes, they happen to be in the right place at the right time.
Sure.
And they stepped up in that moment to create this unbelievable story of heroism. Yeah. And then I even think, though, too, then when stories like that happen, the military capitalizes on that instance, and they actually fluff it up.
Yeah.
It probably didn't look like that to the guys actually on the ground. I'm not saying in all cases, but I had a similar experience to you in my military career. I mean, even as a SEAL, you get to the SEAL team and you look around you and you're like, this isn't what I had in my mind this was going to be like. And that's hard, dude, as a young man. Like, it's hard not to get a really bad attitude, because that's what happened to me. I got a terrible attitude.
Me too. No, 100%. And those instances, those scenarios, they're very marketable and they take advantage of it, which, you can't blame them.
It's a recruiting tool. Yeah.
I had a terrible attitude. I hated I was getting in a pretty bad place because I wasn't doing anything, we weren't going out and training in the woods. We weren't shooting. We weren't doing nothing. And then I also didn't have like the camaraderie that I wanted. Other than those few guys that I was with, and we all were in the same, we all didn't like being there, but we got, how do you get out? And I was going crazy. I was depressed. I was like talking to other people about, like, this is not why I joined the Army, yada, yada, yada. And then deployment was coming up to Afghanistan. And we were going to go with this unit. That's what I was supposed to do. And I'm looking at these other, the infantry line units and stuff, they're deploying as well. And that's when I really started getting crazy. Like, I was losing my mind. And finally got to the spot. I was like, you know how your chain of command always tells you there's an open door policy. You can go talk. If you ever need to talk to us about something, come in. And in this support battalion, I had a female company commander and a male first sergeant. And I was in every time they were in their office, I was in there. I was like, you got to get me out of here. Like, I'm losing my mind. Like, I want to deploy, and I want to deploy with them. Like, what is it? What do I have to do? And it took me several conversations with them. And I think I finally conveyed to them enough that, like, I am going crazy. Like, I'm chomping at the bit, and it ain't to do what I'm currently doing. You know what I mean? So they transferred me, and dude, it was like I was the happiest little boy you ever seen, man. And by then, those units, they had already gone on their pre-deployment, 2-week leave, and I'm showing up like days before they leave. So I got to run home for a few days, and that was it. And that was fine with me. I didn't care. And so we flew out, and the mission was they call them VSO ops. I think it's Village Stability Operations. So they were taking basically squads of us and attaching us to SF teams. So we were attached to 1122, first group. I think. I'm a little rusty on my terminology. But those guys are out of Okinawa, Japan. The coolest dudes I've ever met. Like, the chillest dudes. And in hindsight, a lot of that came from being from Okinawa. They're so far away from the flagpole. They don't care about nothing, no formalities, And so that was the coolest deployment I think you could ever do as a non-special ops guy, because they wanted us to look like them. We got all the cool guns, unlimited support. Like, if we were on a mission and we wanted fast movers, simple, done. It's there. All the bullets, all the bombs, it was so fun. We called it, we made t-shirts for that. We were at Camp Anaconda, which you had somebody on recently talking about Camp Anaconda, which was really cool. I was fired up. I was talking to my wife about that. But that's where we were at. And we called it Combat Summer Camp, because that place had been there for like a decade or so, maybe longer, and had solid walls around the outside. We had, oh man, I forget, like in that country in Afghanistan, there's several different types of people. You've got like the Pashtuns and the Daris or whatever. Or I think these were Hazarians. I might be wrong on that. But they were not like the old school guys walking around in, the man dresses and keeping everything like that. These guys were rolling around in like jeans and a leather jacket. and they had been working at Anaconda for a while. And what they did was, they kept they would take out the trash. They pulled guard at night. A group of them would even go out on missions with us, and we called them the CMRG, the Counter Mine Reduction Group, which was literally, they had 2 old Humvees. In the front one, they had welded like a bucket seat on the front of this Humvee, and it was a guy's job to sit there and look for IEDs. And every IED that they found, they got a bonus. What an insane job.
Yeah, no kidding.
Dude, insane. But it was nice for us. The biggest benefit was we didn't have to pull guard. We could sleep at night. There was 30 some of us in total, and it was a super chill spot. We had rooms and stuff and a little chow hall and a gym. And so all we had to focus on was ourselves, keeping our weapons and kit and everything squared away. Rest when you can, eat when you can, and just be ready to roll out at usually 2 a.m., which is, that sucks. But so you can be knocking on that first door at daybreak.
Yep.
But it was a great deployment. Nothing super crazy happened. Nothing, no lone survivor story. Thank the Lord.
Yeah.
You think you want to get into that until you do, and then you don't. But I learned a lot. I was really close friends with an 18 Bravo, a weapons sergeant. He taught me so much. On our off days, we would spend them on the range. I was the acting sniper for that deployment. I'd never been to sniper school. I was just happened to be the best shot in our squad. And so we spent countless hours on the range. He was teaching me everything he could. We would break weapons down. Like, we would take the M4 all the way apart, not just the basic clean it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I still know him, and I still text him every now and then. But all those guys, the engineer, the guy doing the C4 and stuff, he taught us. I mean, we were working with C4 and like deck cord, and I mean, it was amazing. As just an infantry grunt, like this was the most amazing time of my life. And we had a good time. We ended up pushing out of Anaconda's in the Aruzgan province. I'm blanking on the district. Kaz Aruzgan is where it was. And then we pushed out of there, and we went up to the Musai area, which is just outside of Kabul, up a little bit further north, which was completely different. And we switched teams. We were now with, I think it was 3rd Group, which was out of Bragg, and also very different. Like it was a whole different vibe, as far as like the relationship we had with those guys. It wasn't the same. But that place, we went from living like the luxurious life of Anaconda to filling sandbags and building HESCO barriers and eating MREs and no showers. And it was like, which was also cool. I was like, okay, this is real like infantry stuff here. Like we're kind of in the suck, which I liked. Pulling guard at night, drawing those little diagrams in the guard tower of like all these different ranges. This rock is here, and then like every time you see something moving, somebody doing something, you write it down. And we were so far out there. Well, that wasn't too far out there, but it was like so new that like we had some other unit roll up on us one day. And Matt V's, with the Crow system and the 50 cals, and they're trained on me. I got a 50 cal looking right at me.
They didn't know what you guys were doing there.
They didn't know we were Americans.
Huh.
And so, like, I'm standing there with a saw and shorts and a T-shirt, and I mean, of course, they'd be looking at me. I'm pretty dark anyway, so we weren't shaving much, so you really can't blame them. But I'm like, are we getting ready to throw down with our own guys? Like, if so, let's go. But that was nuts.
Yeah, I bet, man.
I remember the team sergeant went out there, the master sergeant of that team, that SF team, and he was pissed, dude. He was like, I remember he was a little guy. He was just going off. But anyways, we came home in 2000. That was 2012 to 2013 is when we were there. And we came home, and I continued to, at that time I was with the sniper section in the recon platoon, and that was awesome. Like, cause we had so much independence, dude. We would go out and do stalk lanes.
So you enjoyed the sniper stuff?
Oh, dude, I loved it. Like crawling on my belly in a ghillie suit and making it 10 meters in an hour. I ate it up. Like it was so, I love being sneaky.
I didn't have the patience for that crap when I was in my 20s, dude.
Where you're like pushing your fingers out and going,
yeah. It always seemed miserable. I think I could do it now, but in my 20s, I told him to send me to breacher school, man. I didn't want any part of that sniper stuff.
And just crawling around hoping you don't find the fire ants or a snake or something like that, and dragging your gun behind you in a bag. You know, I loved it. And
a lot of people don't realize too, like a lot of sniper teams, a lot of their job revolves around going out prior to the main element, usually days and days prior to the main element, setting up a hide site and just providing overwatch on whatever the target is, gathering real-time intel. A lot of a sniper's job is taking pictures in the SEAL team. So these guys, you know, you would hear stories. These guys would be hunkered down in these hide sites for days, you know, taking pictures and sending pictures back and having to deal with, you know, all the crappy computers and this satellite communications and all this crap. And they can't move out of this hide site. Like they're crapping in Gatorade bottles, like no warm food. I mean, it's a hard job. I don't think people understand sniper isn't always sitting on a rooftop and just sending rounds down range and just killing the enemy. There's a lot more that goes into it.
I never had to do any hide sites. I never crapped in a Gatorade bottle. I'll tell you that right now.
I saw a guy do it one time.
That's
and I
impressive,
thought,
actually.
I don't want to. This isn't the job I want to do.
I mean, an MRE bag, I understand. You know, but a Gatorade bottle that requires some skill.
It is, man.
Especially when you've been eating MREs.
I did. I was with that dude, and I had to crap too. I just waited until we got out of the hide side.
Dude, when my body shuts
held
down,
it in, man.
It's nothing for me to go a week without using the bathroom.
Yeah.
But yeah, like peeing, you roll on your side and you dig a little hole in the ground. And you pee in the hole till it fills up, and then you stop and you let it drain down. Yeah.
A lot that goes into it, man.
It's fun, dude. That to me was like you were saying, playing Army as a kid. Yeah. Like I really loved it. And I finally got a slot to sniper school, and I was geared up to do that. And that's when I came down on orders to transfer and get stationed in Italy with the 173rd Airborne Brigade, which was also another dream of mine. I'd been airborne the whole time. I'd never served with an airborne unit. And so I had this decision to make. I was also married at the time, I should say. She was in nursing school at LU. So on long weekends, I could drive up, you know, that was no problem. You know, we could work that kind of long-term relation or long-distance relationship. But when we came down on orders to go to Italy, we had some tough decisions to make. First, it was like either deny these orders because you're going to sniper school and you're going to stay here in Georgia, or you're not going to sniper school and you'll go to the 173rd. And then the conversation with my wife, what do I do? If I go to Italy, do you come with me? Are you going to drop out of school and come with me? And that was, dude, those were some long, hard conversations. I remember like just sitting down in the hallway of the barracks, just, you know, sad. You know, we were like, we're getting ready to, we don't know what we're going to do. We don't know what we should do.
Yeah, and you're essentially both kids. Like you're
children.
you're not even grown, can't even be considered grown people at this point, and you're making these decisions.
Yeah, so
at least that was my case anyways.
I'm still a kid, man. I'm still just a ignorant child, but I've come a long ways. But we made the decision for her to stay in school and not drop out, because there's no doing, you know, getting a nursing degree to be a registered nurse online, you know. So we decided for her to stay here and I would go to Italy, which in hindsight was the best decision, because, you know, if she would have dropped out of school, left her family and friends to go live in a foreign country where she doesn't speak the language, has no friends, all for me to be there with her maybe 25, 30% of the time, because we were never there. So she stayed here. I went there, and I'll never forget leaving the 3rd Infantry Division as a E4 specialist and walking into the back of a company, of battle company, 2nd of the 503rd, an actual airborne, a real line company. It was night and day difference. Like, there was privates that would walk the dogs on any sergeant where I'd just come from as far as knowledge. Like, these guys were literally studying the Ranger Handbook. They knew all the battle drills, Dudes getting smoked like crazy, which wasn't a huge thing where I'd come from. We would get smoked, but it was light. I walked into here, and I'm like, this is going to be a learning curve, and I'm either going to die or catch up real quick.
And you already have a combat deployment to Afghanistan under your belt. Yeah. I'm so glad that you highlight that, man, because obviously Army infantry guys, they don't get the clout and the spotlight that a lot of special operations guys get. And those dudes, I mean, I have a great friend named Tyler Hardy, and he kind of joined the same time I did, so I was able to just stay in touch with him and follow his career. And he was an Army infantry guy, and just the amount of combat experience, the amount of knowledge that he had amassed through not training but combat experience, the length of his deployments, and the amount of time he had overseas. I mean, I didn't know I don't know of a single dude at my SEAL team who had the amount of combat experience that Tyler had. And Tyler was he's 8, maybe 10 years deep into his career, and he's got more time overseas fighting, not sitting around, but fighting, than some of the dudes that I'm serving with in a SEAL platoon that have twice the amount of time in service. I mean, yeah, so I'm just glad that you point that out, man, how serious those dudes are and the amount of sacrifice that those conventional Army units, infantry units have made and did make over that 20-year period, because it's really unparalleled.
Right. And sure, there are some duds in there like anywhere else.
Of course, there's duds at the SEAL team.
When I walked into battle company, I was walking into, this is the company that the documentary Restrepo was. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have.
That was this company. I mean, a few years before I got there, of course, but that carries on, dude. Like, there was still a guy that's in that documentary was there. He was a fister, Murphy. He was there, and you're just kind of like in awe of these dudes. You know what I mean? One company down, Charlie Company, had a Medal of Honor recipient for Afghanistan. So it was just like this whole different league of infantry. You know what I mean? But I loved it, man. There is no like real training in Italy. The only range was a 25-meter indoor range to zero your gun, and to jump, we would have to fly or travel on buses a few hours south to this Air Force base to get a jump in, which just makes it for a terribly long day.
Yep.
Jump day is a long day anyways. But so when we trained, we were always going to these usually Eastern Bloc countries. Slovenia. I was in Estonia for several months. Germany. We were in Ukraine for several months during 2014, which I didn't know what was going on. It's funny how brainwashed you are when you're in the military, but like 2014 is when the U.S. was implementing or basically conducting a coup as far as the powers that were in position. And that's why the fighting was occurring, on the eastern side of Ukraine. I didn't know that then. I didn't bother to look into it either. There were signs, like when we would go to Lviv, they would give us a day to go get liquored up on the town, basically. You would see like posters and stuff that was very anti, U.S. government. We were at this brewery one time drinking these beers with these labels that had caricatures on them of like Obama and Trump and these other people. And I didn't know what it said, but you could tell it wasn't like good.
Yeah.
but we were just there to drink the beer and not learn. But so we were all over Europe, which was a lot of fun. I've been to more countries than I have states because of that, and lots of great training, cool guy stuff. I remember we were in Estonia in Blackhawks, weaving in and out of these windmills. And I remember, like, I had, like, you have those moments in your service or life where it's like surreal. Like, this is cool. Like, I had like Creedence Clearwater in my head. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is freaking awesome.
Yeah, that is, I've tried to describe that to people too, man. Like, there are these weird moments when you're doing that job where it just, your reality seems surreal.
Yeah.
Like you're like, what is this? It's almost, I don't know, it's like you're living out some sort of dream or something.
Yeah.
So you just go to these places, and because of what you're doing and the guys that are around you, it creates this strange environment that I don't think you can even understand or experience if all you've ever done is, just live out here in civilian land here in the USA. So
yeah, now
I get that, man.
I think I should note to those who are interested that those moments are, few and far in between.
They are, yeah,
and they're immediately followed up with a whole lot of suck.
Reality,
dude. As soon as we landed in that story, we landed in the middle of this huge field, and they opened. We came into contact. So now we're not walking in a wedge across this field. We're now bounding across this field with all of our stuff. And it's like, oh, this freaking sucks.
Yeah. So individual movement technique is what Bryson's talking about. It's essentially a series of burpees in full kit.
Yeah.
While you have guys to your left and right shooting a lot of times live ammunition. And if you make the wrong bound into their field of fire, or you don't have the proper dispersion between you and the guy to your left and right, you end up either getting shot or shooting the dude in front of you.
Yeah.
So it's high pressure, and it's high the physicality of it.
Yeah.
Especially if you're running a dub, a Mark 48 or Mark 46 belt fed machine gun, like, dude, it is rough, son.
Yeah.
And sometimes for hundreds of yards. When that happens, you're generally trying to go as far as you need to go using that technique to get a terrain feature between you and whatever the contact is.
Yeah. Yeah. A tree or
brutal,
something.
Man.
Yeah. That Estonia was fun. Like, we learned a lot. We would do these things. Like in Germany, they called it they called it a patrol academy. We were in Grafenwehr, which in the airborne units, most of your squad leaders have been to Ranger School. That's kind of a requirement. And they were all like, this is basically Ranger School in 2 weeks. It sucked. But you learn a lot in that suck. You know what I mean? And you learn to have an appreciation for it. But anyways, we did a lot of cool stuff with the 173rd, very prestigious unit. I have so much respect and admiration for those guys. I had a whole lot of fun. But when my contract came up, I knew I was going to get out. I never joined to be a lifer. I wanted to deploy. It was a kind of a bucket list item, check the box, and I wanted to do some cool stuff. But I was also tired of living out of a bag. I wanted to go put roots down, do something permanent, create a life. And so I didn't re-up. So the last 6 months, all I did was basically drink myself silly. At that time, I was full-blown alcoholic, man. For whatever reason, it's easy to blame deployments and stuff like that, but it was just an excuse. I think it was just something that was in me. My parents didn't drink growing up. It was just something I did because going back to that word purpose, man, I knew a period of my life was you know, a season of my life was changing and I was scared of it. I no longer had the purpose. I was getting ready to lose, you know, what I thought my purpose was yet again, just like football, and now the Army. And so all I did to cope with that was drink. And
and that's also part of the culture too, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Like that's what guys do in that culture. That's your mentors, at least my mentors when I was in, it was like, dude, I'll never forget when my sea daddy, Jake Hubman, committed suicide. I was on a training trip in Fallon, Nevada, and my platoon chief came to the door of the room that I was staying in to tell me that my best friend had just killed himself. And he's already hammered drunk.
Yeah.
Like that's what you do.
To deal with it.
To deal with anything.
Yeah.
That's what you do to deal with anything. That's just
which is the opposite of what you should. Yeah.
And maybe it's not that way today. I don't know how it is today, but when I was in, that's what you did, man. It was like you couldn't use illicit drugs.
Right.
But it was legal and acceptable and almost part of the culture and community to use alcohol, I mean, on a regular basis. So I get that, man.
Especially living in the barracks.
Yeah.
It's just a really clean frat house.
Yeah.
That's all it is. But it is truly amazing what these young men are capable of doing, you know, to be getting drunk all weekend and then get up Monday morning and go run 8 miles. It's crazy. Who can do that? I mean, I couldn't do. Well, first off, coming from Third ID, we weren't running no 8 miles. I'll tell you that. But when I showed up there, every Monday morning was an 8 mile run, and it was awesome because we could run off base in Italy. We were in Vicenza, Italy, so you're running through this beautiful city. I know my fat butt, dude. I'll never forget. The bakeries were firing up, the little cafes were firing up, and I'm smelling all these like breads and stuff. And like as we're running, I'm like, oh. That smells. But it was like another surreal moment. Like you're running on these old cobblestone roads, you know.
Yeah.
There's so much history. It's different than running in Fort Stewart, Georgia, you know, where it's flat and sandy and nothing.
And ugly.
And very ugly.
Yeah, certainly.
But those guys they can do it somehow. You know, you might puke a few times on the way, but you're going to get the job done.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead and try to not drink for a few days in the barracks. Someone's knocking on your door with a bottle of something or a case of beer and like, hey, man, and then it just starts all over again. But I don't want to, you know, I don't blame that. You know, I was making my own decisions. It's just easy to make that decision in that environment, like you said. So when I came home in 2016, my wife and I, we were renting a single wide trailer at the time. I got a job working for a local manufacturing facility. I was a supervisor, you know. It was a pretty good salary. I had great benefits. I had a 401k, you know. On paper, I had all, you know, as far as getting out of the military, I was doing great, you know, on paper. Because a big part of transitioning from the military, as you know, is like they're like, oh, well, you're going to get a job and this and that. And where, you know, I remember I went through I think they call it the Transition Assistance Program. And they talk about like
TAPS.
Yeah. What a waste of my life that was.
It is. It's such a waste, man.
And I remember saying that then. I'm like, because this guy's telling me, the guy giving this class, I can't remember his name. It doesn't matter. He's wearing a suit and tie giving this, you know, TAPS class and telling me what kind of paper my resume should be on and the font I should use.
Yep.
And don't wear too much cologne and this and that. And I'm like, brother, I think we live in different areas. Because like where I'm going, as long as I work hard and I show up, you know, if you've got a work ethic and a strong back, you're getting a job. Like nobody cares the type of paper you put, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was truly a waste of time.
Yeah, I skipped TAPS.
A waste of resources.
Yes.
Thankfully,
I didn't have to sit through that. But
oh, man, it was every day.
I've
for 2
heard
weeks.
nightmare, like horror stories about it. And It's cool to bring that up, man, just to give some guys perspective on what veterans are dealing with and really the resources that they're getting when they're making this massive transition in life. It's not done well. And it's no wonder why the veteran community struggles so hard, man, when they get out.
Yeah.
And some people can't be helped, but I think it could definitely be done a lot better than it's done. And the military has the resources to do it right. They don't really care. Yeah. When you leave that machine, dude, they don't.
Somebody's right behind you.
It doesn't matter, dude. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the superstar operator at SEAL Team 6. You leave that machine, dude, it just keeps rolling right on without you, man.
Yeah, and it's even funnier, being a business owner now, looking back at that, and I just shake my head even more. It's like they got the wrong people teaching these classes, Like it could be a big help, and I think farming could be. I think veterans in farming is very valuable because
100%.
For one, I work alone for most of the day, which is nice. And every day I get to wake up and I get to decide what I want to do that day for the most part. The animals have their needs, their daily needs, but I have such a freedom, I get to make my own plan. There's no one telling me what to do. And that works for me. At this point in my life, I don't care what business it is, but we're going to own our own. We will be entrepreneurs for the rest of my life. And if I have to work for somebody else, it won't be a big company. It'll be a small, I'll go work for a buddy's construction business or something like that. It won't be this formal corporate type. I did that. I worked in that manufacturing facility for 4.5 years.
Wow, man. You were there for a while.
It felt like 10. But the first few years, dude, I was just drinking myself to death. I wasn't exercising, lifting weights. I didn't do anything. I was working like these, basically 13-hour swing shifts. You'd work nights and days within the same week, which I don't understand why they do that, but that's crazy unhealthy. But I would get work that shift, and the only thing I would ever think about is I can't wait to get off so I can get drunk. I mean, that was as far as my long-term vision went.
Dang, so you were in it.
Yeah.
You were in it deep. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a problem at that point.
Yeah. And I knew it. I think everyone probably knows it. It's a problem.
Did your wife see it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Was she how was she dealing with it? Was she
praying for me?
Yeah.
Every time anyone would try to bring it up to me, I'd get real defensive about it, as you do.
Of course, yeah.
I hated my life. I thought I was depressed, and that's where the VA comes into this. They wanted me to go to see the psychiatrist and the
drug dealer,
psychologist. Yeah, exactly. What is it? The psychiatrist is the one that prescribes the drugs, and the psychologist. Am I saying?
I think right? That's right. Yeah.
Well, the one that you would just go and talk to was more beneficial than the psychiatrist. Because, dude, I would go in there after talking to the psychologist. I would go to this lady, this older woman. She would barely even look at me. She would stare at her computer screen, literally read me these questions off of her computer, and just check the blocks. It was the most unhuman thing. And I ended up on 7 different prescriptions from the VA while being an alcoholic. I'm talking crazy pills to sleep at night, benzos, SSRIs to try to, mood improve, all these things. The things that you're not knowing what I know now, you're not supposed to quit cold turkey because they can kill you.
Yep.
Along with quitting alcohol, cold turkey can kill you apparently too.
100% it can.
I didn't know that, and it was best that I didn't know that at the time, because in 2019, my wife and I, we went on this cruise, dude, for vacation. And of course, I got the drinking all-you-can-drink package, brother. So that's all I did for 9 days, morning to collapse, was drink. And when we got home, I had tried to stop a couple times, but with no real, success. Not that I really tried that hard. I might make it a day, you know. But when we got home from that just about broke me, because I felt like I was getting ready to die. And I was like, you know, something just clicked in me. I was like, that's it. I'm tired of feeling like this. You know, I'm 29 years old, and I feel like I'm on death's doorstep. I'm overweight, you know. I have nothing going for me in my life. You know, it was a miracle I didn't get fired from that job, you know, because every day I'm showing up smelling like booze, you know, which is probably also kind of accepted to a certain degree in that world. But I just got sick of it. So I quit drinking, and I stopped taking all those pills in the same day. Cold turkey. Didn't have a single shake, side effect, nothing, which is a miracle.
Yeah.
I just stopped, and I just focused on one day at a time. Just don't drink today, you know. I tried to go to AA because it just seemed like the thing to do. It's not for me, and there's a lot of us out there like that. Like, you go, that'll almost make you drink again, start drinking again, because you go in there with all these old timers and guys, and you're like, oh, I'm not an alcoholic. These guys are alcoholics. Like, you hear their stories, you're like, oh, snap. Like, I don't have any stories like this. But it just wasn't for me. I went to a couple meetings, and I was like, I'll find my own way. Thanks. Not that it's, you know, someone it might be beneficial for. I don't want to take anything from it. It just wasn't for me. But this whole time, man, just living the life of a sinner. When I was drinking, dude, I was a complete turd. I would lie to you. I would cheat. I'd steal something if I wanted it, you know, a complete turd. Not a man, not a husband. We didn't have kids at the time. I didn't want kids. I had told my wife sitting on the front porch, I didn't believe in God, and I don't want kids. So how could you bring a kid into this lost world, you know, this kind of world? And she told me after that fact down the road that she was like, she really was contemplating our marriage at that point, because she is a Christian, and dude, that yoke was not evenly distributed at all. But I quit drinking soon after that, quit taking the prescription drugs, not a believer at all. I did start smoking weed because it's one of those things in the veteran community. It's very common. You know, guys talk about it openly. They're like, oh, it helps. You know, I don't take anything. And so it probably did help with some of that transition. And so I smoked weed and dabbled in mushrooms for a couple years, several years. My life was 180 degrees better, though. I will say that. I was getting in shape. You know, I went from 300 pounds to 300 pounds to 172 pounds in 6 months.
Good night, dude.
Because I wanted to, I got sober, and like part of getting sober for me, dude, was just staying busy. And so I needed things to pursue, and so I wanted to get back into hunting, and I wanted to lose weight. So I was like, I want to see if I can make it a year only eating wild game that I personally harvest. I wouldn't even take a fish from somebody if I didn't catch it, you know? And I made it 6 months. I ran out of deer meat. You know, deer was out of season, and I was out, and I can only catch so many fish and eat so many squirrels. But I had lost like 115 pounds, so pretty kind of a success. I went from a 42 pant size to a 30.
That is wild, man.
It was nuts. Yeah. Now I'm back up to 215, 220.
Yeah, but you're healthy, man.
Super healthy.
Yeah.
So anyways, about a year before I came to Christ, I had started getting curious about it, which is funny. I don't know why. We had, I should tell you, 2020 happened, and I had been off alcohol for a year at that point, that was God's work, dude. Because for the first, you know, with all the lockdowns and the tyranny that was occurring around me, I was able to see it with a clear head. And I realized that like, this is not the life I want to be living. And I was still working at that manufacturing place. I'm looking around me, I'm seeing all these old guys that have been working there for years, and all those people are just working for one thing, and that's retirement. You know, you're going to work in a job that you hate. You're sacrificing a life with your family just so you can hit 65, or whatever it is now, to pull maybe a Social Security check and start pulling on your 401k to do what? I'm like, this doesn't seem right to me.
To get ready to die, essentially.
Yeah. And you've built nothing for yourself. You know, you've just done, 20 years for someone else's dream.
It's brutal, man. I mean, that's part of that is part of the system. Like that's what
Yeah.
All the way from the time you start first grade, I mean, all the way up through the time you graduate high school, your whole if you're going to public school, I mean, everything is preparing you for that life. I mean, that's all part of this system that, we're going to go on to talk about later in our conversation. Yeah.
Dude, I'm glad you said it. I blame public school for a lot because it's doing nothing but training worker bees.
Look,
and compliant citizens is all it's doing.
Look, man, I would do anything I had to do. Like I would make any sacrifice I had to make to not have to put my son in public school.
Yeah.
Like it's just flat out not an option.
100%.
Like he just wouldn't go. I would rather him not go to school and just be on the farm with me day in and day out.
Yeah.
And that I'm just not sending him there. Like it really, to be honest with you, it's shocking to me how many parents, how many fathers are willing to turn their child over to the state.
Mm-hmm. It is a state institution.
It's shocking. Well, at least today, in the world that we're living,
sure.
Maybe, I was growing up, through the 90s and early 2000s. We should say it was different back then, but nonetheless, it was different in the sense of maybe it was a little more moral. They weren't exposing you to all of these just really crazy sexual, weird, sinful crap and normalizing it. But it was still the system. It was still to prepare you to go work somewhere.
Yeah.
For your entire life, so that then you could spend maybe 5 years at the end of your life doing what you wanted to do.
There was no one identifying as a cat with a litter box in the restroom when I was.
Yeah, that's how it was. Yeah, in some ways different.
You would have got. You would have got beat up, I think. Which plays a part in society, of course. We
got sidetracked there.
No, dude, I want to talk about you being a new father as well, but I've loved all your truck talks talking about Solomon. I follow Brooks' stories and stuff, and just seeing you guys come into that. Not that I'm a seasoned vet at it, but it's so cool, man. And children are nothing less than a gift from God, and you want to protect them. And I agree. I would break myself in half before I send my kids to a state institution.
Same here.
To be indoctrinated. With morals and values that we don't agree with. But backing up, when COVID hit, we hadn't started the farm yet. I had quit drinking and stuff, and kind of seeing clearly, and I realized that I wasn't happy. I wasn't going anywhere. I'm in this place yet again, brother, that like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm supposed to be, Like, why am I here? It's certainly not to work in this place for the next 20 years. I know I'm not doing that. I'm not happy. So my wife and I, we sat down. She had a great job. She's, working in the intensive care unit in the hospital, making really good money. And we sat down and we crunched the numbers and we trimmed some fat. And we were like, well, what's it going to take for me to be able to take a lower paying job somewhere else? I wanted to just go be an employee, not to be in management. Because I really didn't like that. You are not a leader in a any type of corporate environment. You are just parroting PowerPoints that you're told to tell these people. Use these certain buzzwords. You know, you can't lead people. One of my, you know, you have these yearly reviews with your boss, you know, and I always got dinged on being too direct, which is, you know, that's the military in you. Like, we're not beating around the bush. I'm going to tell you what needs to be done and when it needs to be done, and there's no conversation about it. But I always got dinged on that. But I was not happy there, dude. So I left there, and it was the first time in my life, Chad, that I had made the conscious decision to not pursue a materialistic goal, a promotion, a pay raise, something better. And instead, I went backwards. I took a huge pay cut, you know, less benefits, a further drive from home just to go be an employee somewhere. At another, it was actually a Frito-Lay place making chips, which I didn't know anything about and still don't. It took me 4 months to figure out I really hated that, because they would abuse your time, which is, it's ironic, because when I was a manager, I would call people on their days off and tell them they had to come in and work this mandatory overtime. And now all of a sudden I'm the guy getting the call. And I was like, this is disrespectful of my time. And I hated it. So I quit after like 4, maybe 5 months. And I had run into, we've got some Mennonite friends that live less than a mile down the road, and they build garden sheds. That's his business, very successful at it. And I was walking my dog one day, and I had just told him I wasn't liking my job. And he was like, well, you could come work for me, making less money, but I'll be 0.9 miles away from my house. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a good thing. Let's do that. So I quit to go walk into a Mennonite, basically wood shop, building garden sheds from the ground up. I have zero construction experience, Chad. I've never used a nail gun in my life. I walk in there, these guys are hustling. I mean, it's all about efficiency, and they've got everything memorized. You know, there's no stopping to think about stuff. They're throwing fractions around. Yeah. Like I have never heard. I'm like, you want me to 3/16 of what? What? Like, I gotta.
I'd be the same way, dude.
I gotta look at my tape measure and count the dashes. Like, okay, that's 3/16 right there. All right, got it. But I caught up. You know, it was physically hard. It took me 2 weeks to be able to like stand up straight out of bed. My back was so sore, you know, but I really enjoyed it, because once you get it down, you know, you're kind of building the same sheds. You might be a little bit different size, but you kind of get it down and you can really start moving. You're booking. You know, one guy's over here framing walls. One guy's building trusses. I'm framing the floor, setting the walls, you know, doing these things. And looking back in hindsight, those skills were valuable. I didn't know what for at the time, but now doing what we do now, those were valuable.
Yeah.
But it was during that time basically that we didn't have a farm. We weren't raising animals. We had our property, our land, which is just a little under 24 acres. We just liked the land when we bought it, you know. We didn't have any plans for it.
Yeah, I don't want to skip over that. And I also want to go back to, you made a comment earlier about you were getting curious about Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, what did that look like?
I'm getting there.
Okay. I just don't want to skip over that. And I also don't want to skip over the purchasing the farm part. And maybe that needs to be more when we transition into the farm.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to skip over that, because that's one of the biggest obstacles people see in terms of moving this direction. They say, well, I could never look at the price of land, dude.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking for land. It was the hardest part for me when I decided I wanted to move in this direction, is finding the land.
Yeah.
And then having to realize I'm going to have to just bite this bullet and spend more money than I'm comfortable spending to have the right piece of land.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's right. And so us buying the land was 2017, not a special story. Obviously, land and house prices and interest rates weren't what they are now. Plus I used the VA loan for that, your first time house. I forget what it's called. So like our interest rate is, I think, less than 2% or something like that. But again, we didn't buy it to start a farm. We wanted to live in the country and have, a little house and some land of our own to do whatever we wanted to do. But I do have an answer for you. And I'll get to that. But in 2020, we were the people, NPCs, I say, non-playable characters, in the video games, just walking through life, drones. We didn't know nothing. We didn't think about nothing. You just go to work and do what you got to do. And we would go to the grocery store, at least once a week, and we would buy groceries. I would buy meat. I've had a smoker since 2017, so I would always buy these big beef chuck roasts from Sam's Club. Whatever looked the best and was the cheapest, I bought. And I would cook those and eat on those throughout the week. I never thought about where that animal was raised, what it ate, how it was raised, where it was raised, what's in it. Is it full of antibiotics and vaccines? Or I didn't think about any of that, dude. And most people don't. We have been trained in this society to buy the lowest price per pound. What's the most convenient? What's the cheapest? That's how most people do their shopping. And that was me until 2020, when COVID was kicking off. I went into Sam's Club to do the same thing I always had. And all of a sudden that meat shelf cooler was empty.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, oh, snap. That's when it started to hit us. Like, we depend on another man to feed ourselves. We didn't even have kids then. It was just us, my wife and I. Like, we can see how this could be a problem.
It's so fragile, man.
Very fragile.
There are scientists right now that are from year to year trying to figure out how they are going to feed the population next year.
Mm.
They do not have, like, I've talked to these men whose this is their job, is to try to solve these problems.
Mm-hmm.
And they realize how fragile this system is that we depend on to literally meet the most basic necessity for life, or one of the three: food, water, and shelter.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
And they don't even know, they, meaning the organizations who are working with farmers and farmers not only raising crops, but raising animals and everything else. How are we going to produce enough food to feed this growing population next year? They don't know how they're going to do that.
And there's not a good way.
And they understand how fragile the system is. We don't. We got a little taste of it during COVID.
Yeah.
You're right. But it wasn't enough people didn't have to go hungry during COVID. They could just maybe eat some more processed, maybe not get the cuts of meat they wanted, but they didn't have to go hungry yet.
They didn't. Most people, a lot of us woke up, but most people did not wake up. And a friend of mine, Billy Bond, he runs another podcast called the Permaculture Pimpcast, PIMP. Permaculture is my passion. He's the pimp daddy. Shout out Billy. But he says it best. Dude, you can learn a lot.
Okay.
A lot. He says it best. The only thing that's going to wake people up is starvation. And that's a very blunt, but I think true statement.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's when it was exposed to us. That's when the fragility of this system was exposed to us. And so it was actually my wife Mackenzie's idea. She's like, you think we could get a pig, raise a pig to put in the freezer? Dude, I don't know nothing about no pig. I'm like, well, let me read some stuff about it, watch some YouTube videos. And I started going down that path. I found some podcasts that cover it. I listened to every single podcast when I was working. I was taking notes throughout the podcast.
And you're still working with the Mennonites at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Less than a mile from home. So we got a couple piglets because I didn't want to just get one. He needs a buddy. And that's kind of when those gears started turning. We put pictures of those piglets on Facebook. No, we had no plan of starting a business that's a farm. We were just trying to put some meat away for, food security. But we put some pictures on Facebook. People started asking us things like, are you going to sell sausage, yada, yada. And during that time, the demand for locally produced food was higher than probably it's ever been.
Yep.
I wish it were like that now. It's not. Everyone's gone right back into their rut.
Of course, yeah.
Which Joel Salatin, I think he was quoting somebody else. He said, a rut is nothing but a grave with the ends knocked out. And that's beautifully said. But they go right back, stick your head in the sand. They didn't learn nothing from it, dude. But we felt that market pressure. We're like, okay, we've got something that people want. We've never been entrepreneurs. I still don't know nothing about running a business. But we're like, let's kind of lean into this a little bit. So we went to, my buddy's got a pig school. They call it farrow to finish. Farrow is what it's called when pigs have piglets, farrowing. So it's called farrow to finish. It's actually coming up. It's in Edinburgh, Virginia. His name is Jordan Green, J&L Green Farm. We attended that, something similar to that school. He actually had done one for veterans and first responders because he's a Marine vet. And it was basically that school condensed into one day. And we went up there for that, my wife and I. And I didn't even realize how much I had learned that day. But we bought 4 more piglets from him and took them home. And we just started learning more and more about this regenerative farming, these practices and what that looks like and how to do it. And we decided to start an actual farm. So we came up with a name, Triple Oaks Farm. It's because I've got 3 very large white oak trees in my front yard. I'm like, well, that seems pretty easy to explain. And so Triple Oaks Farm was created in 2021. And we started to walk through that, learning everything. It is stressful, dude, when you are learning how to raise animals and trying to learn how to run a business simultaneously. And it's even more stressful when you are a prideful and egotistically driven person like myself. I got it in my head, man. And I was, not to blame anybody, but with a little bit more wisdom, you got to be careful about who you take advice from. There's a lot of people out there giving advice. Not that it's necessarily bad, but it can take you down the wrong paths. So I was pushing this business, pushing my family to the max. I wanted to see how big I could grow that farm and that business, how successful I could make that business as fastly as possible. And all for the wrong reasons. All to put Bryson's name on it. To say, look what I did. That was my Tower of Babel, if you will. Not that I knew anything about that then. Mm-hmm. And turns out you can do a whole lot in a few years. If you've got the drive and the work ethic, you can do a whole lot. But I wasn't making any friends in it, I can tell you that. With that mindset, you don't. It's trample the weak kind of mindset, very militaristic kind of thinking.
Yeah.
Not the way. That is not the way.
I could imagine that, man, because in this, if you want to even call it an industry that you're in right now, relationship is probably going to be one of the most critical aspects of your success. Mm-hmm. Like shared knowledge,
100%
relationship. And so you're trying to apply this more traditional entrepreneur mindset mm-hmm. of like, no, we got to be the biggest, we got to be the best, which works for a lot of businesses. If you're a supplement company or if you're some sort of corporation.
You're talking about the guy I'm referencing right now.
Yeah.
Andy.
Yeah. I mean, that works in in Andy's business. And yeah, but you take that advice and try to apply it to the type of environment that you're operating in. Ooh, I could see how.
Yeah. And he has a lot of great business advice. The guy is a gangster at it. but I was probably applying it incorrectly for my line of work, because you're right. All of us in this line of work, we are technically competitors. You know, we're selling the same products on the same market, but we're all working together. It's all, like you said, shared information, shared wisdom. We're all friends, and you should be. There's so few of us, you know, you got to work together. But I didn't have that mindset then, you know. And so what that led to, Chad, was a very overworked, overstressed man. And I was in a position to where I had grown this thing way too fast. Not that we weren't making money, but the cart was way in front of the horse. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, for sure.
Our burn rate as far as capital was very expensive. And anytime you're scaling a business at that speed, it's going to be, especially in the livestock world. You know, I'm spending $7,000 to $8,000, $9,000 a month in feed. I've got groups of 100 pigs that I'm growing to finish for pork, and 100 pigs eat a whole lot of feed. Then you have to worry about, at the time, our business was an LLC, a publicly operating business. You have to worry about your butcher fees for those animals, which was the largest input cost of raising pigs. People don't talk about that. It would take me at the time about $250 to maybe $300 to raise a piglet from start to finish. Butcher fees, USDA butcher fees on those pigs was averaging, for basic cuts, $450 per pig.
Good night.
So
and you have to go that route.
Yep.
Because you're registered as an LLC.
Yep.
So you're having to use USDA certified butchers to process this meat so that you are then allowed to sell it to people, right?
Right. So an LLC and any license or permit that you have with the state is nothing less than a contract, which means you have to abide, you have to play by their rules. And nobody tells you that. You know, when we started the business, we didn't know what we were doing. We were just doing what other people were telling us to do. And most of those people don't know what they're doing. They're just telling you what other people have told. You know, no one knows nothing hardly. You know what I mean? They say, go, you got to get a business license. You got to get an LLC. You got to do this. You got to do that. So that's what we were doing. And you're right. So to sell your neighbor a pound of sausage, it has to be processed at a government approved and inspected and regulated butcher shop, which comes with a lot of money, a lot of fees, a lot of, you know, regulations and restrictions. If you wanted to start a USDA butcher shop, it's going to cost you millions of dollars to erect to meet their guidelines. Right, I talked to a guy recently who already owns and runs and operates a what's called a custom exempt. So there's 3 levels of butchers. There's USDA, federally inspected. Some states have state inspected, which you can have animals processed there and then sell to the public within your state. They're not really existent in Virginia. And then there's what's called custom exempt. That's where a lot of guys take their deer. You know, and on the packages, it'll say not for sale because it's for your own use. Or you can sell on paper. The loophole is I could sell you a pig, a live pig. Now you own it, and then I'll take it to the butcher, and then you can go pick up your meat. You know what I mean? That's a workaround for that. It's not ideal, Chad, because I don't know about you, but I don't know many mothers who's the main person shopping for the family who go to a Kroger and buy 100 pounds of pork. Most people don't have the freezer capacity to store it, much less the $1,000 or whatever it's going to cost to drop on that kind of, you know, on that much meat at one time. So that limits your market from the jump. But like I was saying, to sell a pound of sausage to my neighbor, it would have to be butchered at a USDA butcher shop, which was my highest input cost as a pork producer by 65%.
So you're gonna have nearly $1,000 wrapped up in a
100%.
in a pig.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Which is insane. And you're talking about 100 pigs at the time I was raising in one group, plus sows.
Good night, man.
So I was stressed. I'm like, how are we going to feed these pigs? You know, we're barely making the payments on this feed, and then I got to drop thousands more dollars. I went into $15,000 in debt one time on butcher fees on a credit card. I don't recommend that to anybody. But what are you going to do? You can't keep feeding them. You got to get them butchered so you can start selling it to see some kind of trickle in, the other door. And I'm just stressed to the gills, dude. And during that time, like I mentioned before, I think I give the credit to God who gave me this farm. He owns that farm. I don't own that farm. I wasn't thinking about it like this at the time, but he put me in that position for a reason, because I think when you're dealing with creation on a daily basis, when you deal with life and subsequently death all the time, I think it starts making you think about things differently. The whys behind things.
Oh, it's something that we've so lost as a culture here in the United States, man.
And I think that was maybe one of the catalysts that spurred that curiosity in me to start asking questions about God, about creation. I would pick up the Bible and read a little bit, not for the right reasons, but for the first time in my life, even growing up in church, I never read the Bible. But I started dabbling because I was curious. And it's interesting. Looking back now, that was my seed germinating, I had overcome alcohol and the drugs that the VA had put me on. I had, for the first time, what I felt was my true purpose. That's what I thought. I thought my purpose here was to be a farmer. Never saw it coming, but that's what I was doing. I was thinking clearly. I was healthy.
You had a praying wife.
Yeah. The most powerful.
You can't discredit that.
The most powerful thing going for me then was that. That is the most powerful thing we can do. Often overlooked, I think. But and I started to get curious, and in combination with the overstressed, man, I felt like it was slipping through my fingers. You know what I mean? I felt like, and when you're driven by ego, that hurts a lot. When you feel like you're losing control of something. And when I was an alcoholic, like I said, I was a turd. I was not a man. I would lie, whatever it took, to basically get me to the next night so I could start drinking again. A miserable person. So when I got sober and we started that business, I had a lot of pride in those two things. And it was so important to me that I was an honest man. My word, it was like starting over. I was like, everything from here forward, I'm recreating a reputation. And so my word was my bond. And that was at the time, that was the most important thing to me. And so as I'm starting to get curious and things feel like they're crumbling around me, I'm losing control. A friend of mine showed up at my door one day, a strong Christian man. He told me, later on that he just felt led to come talk to me. He could see that I was going down the wrong path. I don't think he knew I wasn't a Christian, but he kind of had an idea. You can, judge one by its fruits, right? So he came to me to talk to me about that. And throughout that conversation, I had done some things he had disagreed with, which is fine. But he asked me straight up, he's like, "Are you a Christian?" And I didn't want to have that conversation. You know, I growing up in church, you hear it all the time. You know what to say.
Yeah, but you're at a point in your life now where you weren't willing to lie to him.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
Chad.
I get that.
But I did just that.
Hmm.
I lied to him. I lied to my friend to his face. He knew I was lying, but he also knew I was trying to get out of that conversation. So he let it go. We hugged and he left. And when I walked away from that conversation, it ate me alive. Dude, I was disgusted by myself. I was like, you just lied to one of your close friends to his face about faith. And so one night in December of 2024, as I'm laying in bed, the world is spinning out of control, you know, for me. I feel lost. I had just lied to my buddy, and I got tired of fighting it. And I was thinking to myself, like, you are an idiot. You big dummy. Like, you obviously know what you should be doing if you're willing to lie about it, you know? So why are you fighting it? God had been working in me for about a year prior to that and sprouting that seed inside of me, but I was pushing back, as one does often. But it wasn't until then, when I had done that it just broke me. And I was like, that's it. So laying in bed, man, I just committed my life to Christ. I repented. I made the decision, like, from here on, I'm not doing this for me anymore. I'm doing this for the Almighty. And I fell asleep, and the next day I woke up and I sat my wife down and I told her. I can't even really remember the conversation, you know. It was a blur. And who knows, you know, how serious she took me. But I think she could probably tell, you know, that something had happened. And I started reading my Bible. I started in Genesis, which is a great place to start, especially as a farmer, you know. And I started having these revelations, man. God started revealing himself to me, which, as he does in the Word, right? And I started, my whole perspective on life, my marriage, my farm, my business completely shifted. And I realized, it was like, when I walked outside, dude, it was like the first time I could breathe. Like I had been underwater for a couple years, and I had just popped my head up and could breathe. And I realized, like, you've been doing this for all the wrong reasons. None of this even matters. You know, this is just what you're doing right now. The only thing that matters is that you serve the Lord and you do everything you can to spread the gospel and expand his kingdom. That's the only thing that matters. And it was amazing, dude, because when you have that revelation, it's like you can relax almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like all this farm, this business, my home, my land can be stripped from me tomorrow, and it doesn't matter because you have that framework, that scaffolding that's binding you and your family together that nothing can break. And it was incredible. And it kind of was like, what took you so long, you know? But I'm ignorant, you know? Like I said, I was prideful. I was egotistical. It's me, 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 me.
Yeah, man, as long as you're clinging to those sounds so cliche, but worldly possessions, like you said, your land, your business, as long as you're clinging to those, all the while knowing that they can just be gone at any point. And if you don't have anything that's bigger than those, that's a scary way to live, man.
Yeah.
I even slip into that mode even now, sometimes in my own life. Sure. When I look at what we do, and you're thinking like, well, dang, how are we going to make it next year? I mean, you probably have thoughts. Every entrepreneur has those thoughts. You don't know from year to year what's going to happen. How's the Lord going to provide what we need.
Dude, I'm with you, dude.
And you slip into that where you're like clinging so tightly to what can I do? And if I lose these things, what's going to happen to me and my family, and what's my purpose going to be? And
one of my consistent prayers at night throughout the day usually is I ask God to clearly show me his will, and that I'm not pursuing the will of my own. It scares me because I have that same thing in me. It's like, am I pushing this? Am I doing this just for me? Or am I doing this because it's the Lord's will? And dude, sometimes it leads me, lately, it's doing nothing is an option, and just waiting and praying. And just, I'm a thick-headed guy. So I ask him to if you're going to open a door, please open it real wide. And if you're going to shut one, slam it in my face.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of simple like that, But that, I'm with you. I'm so fearful of slipping back into that.
Takes constant like awareness and seeking the Lord in prayer, constant. Yeah, man.
So for the first time in my life, dude, I've said purpose several times in my whole life up to that point. I had been pursuing these things because I thought it was my purpose. And I finally, at 34 years old, 34 years old, I knew my purpose.
Dang, man.
It wasn't to be a football player. It wasn't to be, in the military. At one point I thought I was going to be a fisherman, like a professional fisherman. I love to fish. But all these things, always fell through. I thought it was farming, and it's not farming. No, my purpose here is to serve God and to serve my family. That is my purpose. And dude, the peace that comes with that is incredible. And that's, we know who is the King of Peace, brother. Yeshua.
Yeah.
I know him now. He gave that to me. So moving forward, now that I'm walking with Christ, we started really changing our business model.
At what point did you have your son?
Great question. He's 4 now, so in I guess 2022. So we were in our first year of farming. I wasn't a believer. Just beginning. I just sold I used to have a John boat that I would take on the river to fish. I'd be out there in the middle of the night, dude. I love fishing. And I sold that John boat to buy my first group of pigs. I bought 20 piglets to pursue this thing. And actually, while my wife, she was having some complications with that first pregnancy. She got pretty bad, what's called preeclampsia. Like her blood pressure was real high, and she had been hospitalized for a week. She was 34 weeks pregnant at that time. Dude, I left her in the hospital at the Virginia Baptist to go pull my livestock trailer to go pick up these pigs to take them back home. And then I went back. I actually did that trip twice, which is kind of insane to leave your wife.
Yeah, but there again, I think that's a really cool story that paints the picture of at that season and that time, how that was in your mind, your purpose.
Yeah.
Your purpose wasn't to be a husband, now potentially a father. I'm sure you connected with those things in some way, but what you thought you were supposed to be doing kind of trumped all of that. Yeah.
Like the conversation with her was this is our business now. This is what the business needs.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're going to do everything to make that business move forward. And so this is going to maybe be a little rough, but so my son was born just before she was 35 weeks pregnant. So he was a little premature. That's not, worst case scenario. We were actually told we were going to have a daughter, first thing. Well, out came Abraham, our firstborn son. which was kind of like curveball number one. I had the whole nursery decorated. We were going to name her Emma. So I had Emma on the walls, you know, pink stuff, you know. That's just tells you how much you can trust the medical industry. But Abraham came out, and we were not the same people then as we are now. You've touched on this in your videos about what they push on you throughout pregnancy and when that baby comes out. And we just went along with it, you know. She got an epidural, which she would never do now. She would never have the baby in the hospital, period, unless something was really, really wrong. You know, they cut the umbilical cord immediately, which we do not do now. That thing stays attached for an hour after that child comes out. And I'm sure you know this, you might have talked about it, but they do that to preserve those stem cells so that they have a more viable product to sell.
Yeah.
Sickening. I mean, that is disgusting. That is demonic, if anything is. And they take your baby away immediately, you know. But there he was, dude. I'm looking at my first child for the first time, this little greasy red looking thing, you know. And he's crying, you know, he's breathing. They were worried about his lungs, and they had given her all kinds of medicine to try to, they knew she was going to be early, and lung development is a critical part of you know, a growing child at that point. So they were worried his lungs weren't going to be developed enough to breathe. But he was breathing. But he got sick real fast. His intestines were swollen because they had given her a magnesium shot for whatever their reasons were, which swells the baby's intestines. So they shipped him off to the University of Virginia, which is like one of the largest children's hospitals, you know, around, supposedly renowned for that. And we were up there with him on a Saturday, and he was doing fine, man. He was drinking breast milk out of a bottle. He was being monitored closely, of course. And we were exhausted, you know, at that time, as everybody is. And we decided we were going to go home for the night. We thought he was in good care. We were going to go get some sleep and then come back the next morning. What they did without telling us was they didn't feel like he was eating enough. And you know newborns now, Chad, they don't eat a ton, you know, especially the first couple days.
Yeah, first couple days, yeah.
So someone made the decision to put, I think it's called an FG tube, through his mouth or nose into his stomach and force feed him formula. They didn't ask us. And we believe that is what really caused him to, that with the inflammation of his gut is what caused his intestines to deteriorate. And he got what they call necroenterocolitis, which is a flesh-eating bacteria in the intestines of a newborn.
Good night, man.
And it was worst case scenario. We got a call. We called, Mackenzie called like at 10 p.m. to check up on him that Saturday night. And you knew something was not right. You know, they were putting us on hold and whatever. And they told us that he had passed some blood in his stool. And what had happened was he had 2 holes had perforated in his intestines. And so now he's got bowel leaking out into his gut. And so we get there at like 2 or 3 a.m. We stopped at the top of the driveway before we left. This is also insane. We were raising chickens and chicken tractors on pasture. And we're like, well, let's stop and move these chicken tractors real quick. Because they got to be moved, you know, every day, at least once a day. Dude, it's insane. But we did that, and then we went to the hospital. And when we showed up, our entire world had been flipped upside down. Everything had changed. My son was no longer awake. He's in an incubator. They put a blindfold over him because they got that blue light on him. He's got every tube known to man coming out of him, going into him. He's just laying there, limp, lifeless. And they sit us down, and this surgeon who specializes in enterocolitis in newborns, which it's a miracle that he was there, working there, comes and lays the weight of the world on our shoulder and straight up tells us that, like, this is not good. Like, we're going to do what we can, but it's not probable that he survives this. And so all night, he's in surgery, and we're just weeping, dude. But he made it out of surgery, and what they had done was the infected part of his bowel, they had cut his intestines on either end of that, which left 4 ends on the inside of his stomach. And they pulled those ends of the intestines, and they sewed them to the outside of his stomach so you can see them, so that they can monitor, is that intestine healthy, is it growing, or is it dying? So he's getting nutrition through an IV, because you can't use the intestines at this point. He's still in the incubator. He's being heavily monitored. My wife, she at the time was working for a private hospice company, which a Christian company, and they were so generous to us that she didn't have to go back to work. They still paid her, gave her all the time she needed. She was living at the Ronald McDonald House in Charlottesville, and she was by his side praying over him every single day. I was working at the garden shed place throughout the week full time, and trying to figure out this farming thing at the same time. And I would go up there on the weekends, which was so hard to do.
I couldn't even imagine
the new job of learning that, build construction. Everything seems to be going wrong with my farm because I have no idea what I'm doing. So the stress of that, I'm breaking, and my son is dying, hour by hour is how we were living. He could change and did change several times, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. It was some of the darkest moments we've ever walked through as people. And I know you got a taste of that with Solomon.
Nothing near what you guys experienced, but yeah, a taste of it.
I was listening to you talk about
it's crazy that you can even tell the story so clearly without just well, I'll put it this way: I can't even tell the story of my experience yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I can connect with you, at least on some level, on the weight of that. But then the part that I can't connect with is, at that point, you weren't trusting in the Lord. Like, you didn't have that. Like, good night, dude. Because at least the experience we had with Solomon, although if for whatever we would have lost him, thank you, Lord, that we didn't. At least I had my faith.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the end of it all, no matter the outcome.
Yeah. You had a place to go.
Yeah. I just can't imagine managing that without that gift of faith, man.
Yeah. I love Psalms 91, and Mackenzie prayed that over Abraham every day.
Yeah.
I didn't know it then, but I know it by heart now. And it lines up with what you're saying. When you are walking in faith, those who dwell in the secret place, praying of the Most High, shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge, He is my strength. I didn't have that then, and it is crazy that I made it through that somehow, but it wasn't about me, it was about my son and my wife. So 140 days is how long he stayed in the ICU up there. which it was about an hour and a half drive for me to get there. What they ended up doing was removing his entire small intestines. So he has what they call short gut syndrome now. But they stitched everything back together. They kept him for a while to make sure he was, the pipes were working and they weren't leaking, and that was another huge surgery where we almost lost him. Doing that, removing that small intestine, stitching everything back up.
This little body, man,
yeah, I can't imagine. We still write that surgeon letters and send them pictures, and which I don't think he's a Christian, but we put that in there, so maybe that'll plant a seed for him. We almost lost him, Chad, not because of the surgery, but because of negligence after the surgery on the hospital's part. And this might be getting into too much detail, but I like to talk about it. They took my son and opened him up and rearranged his guts and then sewed him back up and sent him back with 0 pain medication. Can you imagine?
No. And he doesn't know what's going on.
And so when he came to, when he regained consciousness and that pain hit him, dude, I'll never forget my son, months old, premature at that, bridging back on his head, dude, and writhing in pain. Like when you see your little boy, just his whole body tense because he's in so much pain. It's it will kill you as his father, 'cause
certainly.
I'm just sitting there trying to hold his little hand, and at that point the hospital staff is trying to play catch up on the pain, which never works the same, but it's something better to stay on top of. But he ended up stopped breathing because of the pain. And they couldn't get a tube down his throat to breathe for him because he had so much swelling from being intubated from the surgery. So they've got the little mask over his mouth and they're breathing for him while they call in this other, this neonatal specialist, and he's good with getting the thing down there. And I remember we were sitting in the waiting room because they wouldn't let us back there, and we see this dude run by in like sweatpants. And he went back there and he did it immediately, and we hugged that man, we cried on his shoulder, and so they got him stable.
Yeah, man, that industry, meaning the medical industry as a whole, it's such a double-edged sword when you have conversations about it, man. Because yes, a lot of the crap is crazy and unnecessary and leads to really big issues. Like a lot of the things they do snowball, but at the same time, you have these people like the man who runs to your son's rescue and saves his life, and you're like, thank God for these people.
Yeah,
it's like such a double-edged sword, man. Like, it cuts both ways. It's tough because you think about Abraham, and I don't know where you stand on this, but if you guys would have had Abraham without any medical intervention, would he have survived? What would his outcome have been?
No, he would have died.
Yeah, I still haven't sorted that in my mind either, man. Like, because I'm the same as you when I think about, if Brooke and I were to have another child, and obviously if the pregnancy looked, everything was good to go, there were no issues, what would our decision be in terms of she has that desire, to do home births and stuff like that. But then at the same time, you're like, yeah, but man, It's a double-edged sword. It's a
Well,
complex
I'll
conversation.
get to that because that's a good point too. But we learned, shortly after that little debacle, if you can call it that happened simply because of a miscommunication between the surgeon team and the nursing unit, basically, and the doctors in between.
And I can't imagine how angry
that's exactly
that
what
would
I'm
make
getting
you,
to.
man.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you get some distance from it, and you're like, well, these people are humans.
I wasn't thinking like that.
No, you would. It's not possible to think like that.
Dude, especially as
in
not
that
being
moment.
a believer.
Yeah.
How I didn't meet one of these suckers in the parking lot.
And lay them out, yeah.
Oh, I wanted to kill him. I'm like, you almost killed my son because of your negligence.
Mm-hmm.
And we had meetings with them. And they would sit there,
And that image of your son being in that amount of pain will be burned into your
I'll never forget
mind for the rest of your life.
Yep. Anytime he's acting up now and I'm getting annoyed with him, I just think about those days.
Yes, sir.
Because he is still a regular 4-year-old, he's children they're raising us, right? That's what they say. Anyways, and I'll never forget taking him home. We put him in his little car seat. For the first time, we're like doing normal parent stuff. He's got they call it a G tube. It's basically a port that goes directly into his stomach, because since he doesn't have his small intestines, what short gut syndrome means is his body doesn't slow food down and hold food down long enough for him to absorb the needed nutrients from that food. It passes straight through him. And so we would be able to give him additional supplement, boluses, syringes of food. And again, we weren't the same people, so we were using this, whatever high octane formula they were telling us to use, which like the first ingredient is like cornstarch or something. We would never touch it these days. But you're living in pure fear and still dependence at that point. And he also had it's called a Centraline, which was an IV that went through his chest directly into one of the arteries of his heart.
Yeah.
And that's how we would give him IV nutrition as well. And he was hooked up to that for a while. But our goal was to, we had this farm, which was a gift that we didn't realize it was a gift at that point where we're raising the most nutrient dense food available to man. We're now raising, we had gotten into. And what better thing to feed this nutrient deficient son of ours than that? And so we wanted to get him on this food as quickly as possible and wean him off all this extra medical stuff. And so that's what we did. We pushed for it. We wanted that boy on raw milk as soon as we could do it, which the doctors don't like hearing that, of course, because they just paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to be taught something different. But we weaned him off. We got the line out of his heart. And then we eventually took that thing out of his stomach, which he's got some gnarly scars for the rest of his life now. I mean, he's got a scar from side to side across his belly. And he started eating real food. We were cooking like organ meat and mixing it and blending it up with lard. It's like, how can we make the most calorically dense thing for him to consume,
Yeah.
And now we're in this position that God put us in to do that. It's incredible.
Yeah, it has a whole new purpose behind it.
Yeah.
And I can relate to that in a way because, like I say, you're way ahead of me, but this is the direction I want to go. And a big reason I want to go this direction is because I want to know what is going into my son's body, literally from the time he begins to eat. Mm-hmm. Like I want to know that, and I want to be able to provide him with the best possible food all the way through his life. It takes on a whole new meaning, man.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you feel this. I want home to be where we work.
Yeah.
What are we doing, man?
Yeah.
We go to work and then we come home. And what is home? It's a place where you sit on the couch and watch television and sleep. Mm-hmm. How screwed up is that, dude?
Yeah, very screwed up.
Like what? No wonder our kids are so jacked up, man.
Yeah.
What are they doing when they're at home all day? Freaking watching their tablets? What else are they going to do, man? You live in a subdivision.
Yep. Yeah.
What else are they going to do?
Yeah. Great points, man. And it did have a whole new meaning. We had a whole new motivation for running that farm and raising those animals. But it is a testament to the joy that children bring for us to walk through those moments with that first kid, those dark, dark moments, and to finally slowly come up out of it to say, yeah, let's have another. Let's potentially go through that again.
You ain't lying, brother, because I'm one and done, son. At least I haven't. Maybe I haven't come up out of it yet to be able to
give it
say
some
that.
time. Give it some time.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, so that is a testament, dude, to say like, yeah, we're excuse me, we're willing to potentially do that all over again because it's worth it. And so I had come to Christ before my second son was born, and our whole mindset and our knowledge of what we know about health and nutrition and the medical industry had continued to develop. So by the time we had that second son, she had him in our bedroom, in the water. I bought a 150-gallon water trough from Tractor Supply, which I do need to buy a new one. She told me I can't use the same one because I use it for all kinds of stuff, but I got to buy a new one for our third child in October. But she had him in our home, in the water, with a midwife at like 12:30 at night, something like that. Candlelit room, peaceful, no fluorescent lights, no doctors, no nurses pushing you, telling you what to do, as natural as it can be. And that, Chad, I got to see the beauty of bringing life into this world. You don't see it in the hospital.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly looking around, what do I need to do? What are they going to tell me to do next? You're nervous. I was on my knees behind my wife, praying over her, asking God, bring me this child, and I got to see him come up out of that water. We didn't find out what the gender was because the way we see it, it's none of our business. We don't do any ultrasounds, no genetic testing. It's none of our business. Is your faith in God or is it not? And that's where we stand today. Which again, our first pregnancy was completely different. We did everything that people normally do. But it was so beautiful. I'm sure tenfold for her, but just for me, the husband and the father, to be there and see that happen. I mean, I was crying. I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing to see him come out, man. To see that placenta pulsating and giving him the rest of the, was it like 2/3 of the blood for that child is in that placenta. So if you cut it, to see that empty out and decrease in size, and then we get to cut it at, I think it was like 45 minutes or an hour. She's in her bed, our bed, peaceful. Our other son, it was 3 at the time. He was awake. To see him, get to see that moment as well. It was beautiful, man. That's the only way I can describe it.
I haven't got to experience that, man. And what actually, and I'm going to ask you a hard question.
Please.
And you can answer this however you want. So what drove us to really making the final decision to have Solomon at the hospital is we did find that there were some complications through the ultrasounds.
Yeah.
And when you guys had Abraham, were you guys, well, obviously you were going to the doctor, you found out about the preeclampsia,
mm-hmm.
You guys were having the ultrasounds. When did you guys realize there were going to be did everything look good on the ultrasounds, or?
We knew his intestines were inflamed before he was born from an ultrasound.
Yeah.
But other than that, everything was fine.
Yeah.
She needed. They induced her because her blood pressure was so bad. They thought she was going to stroke out. So they, which apparently makes the contractions and the labor pains worse when you're induced versus naturally. Which is why she made the decision to get an epidural. But yeah, he came out. Now, other than it was supposed to be a female, we got a male, which that goes to show you how effective ultrasounds are. But yeah, everything was fine. It wasn't until, I don't know, a day later that things started to go downhill.
I guess the hard question that I want to ask you, and maybe you don't have the answer to this because I don't have the answer to it either, is that scene of you guys having your second son is such a beautiful scene that, man, I would love to get to experience as a father with my wife. And the statement that you made about, like, we don't do ultrasounds anymore, we're not doing all that crap, like, man, I felt that tension with our son. I was like, why are we going in here? Like, what is this ultrasound doing to him while he's in her belly? Like, there's tension there, right? But without the facilities, without all of those pieces that were at the hospital, our son probably would have died, and Abraham might not would have made it. I mean, who knows? We can't make that call. We don't know exactly what it would have looked like. So, like, how do you balance that tension now between, you know what, none of this stuff because it's none of our business. I feel you on that. But at the same time, knowing that seeing your son every day, knowing that you wouldn't have him without all this other stuff. Like, that's hard for me to think, to like, where's the line? You know what I mean?
Well, you asked how, and it's one word, and faith.
Yeah.
We have to rely on that.
I get what you're saying, yeah.
We have to rely on that. The current industrialized medical system wants you to live in fear. They also told us that, our firstborn, that he had some signs of like Down syndrome, which ruins the joy of pregnancy. And that happens to so many women. They tell you something, and now you're thinking about that, and not the joys of growing a human being. They profit off fear. And as far as the ultrasounds go, there are great studies out there of the negative impacts of ultrasounds on children in the womb.
It's got to be doing something.
You're sending these electromagnetic waves that were used for sonar, that's going through things. I don't mean, like, we unplug our Wi-Fi router at night, so we're not getting pumped full of these, this EMF at night. We do all these things to avoid that. Why would you put something right on it going into his brain? And you can find those studies, and we can send it to you if you want. But
yeah, there's repercussions. I understand that. Like, there are repercussions for every single intervention, no matter how beneficial the intervention might be. It's also at the same time doing something harmful.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And maybe Abraham's intestines wouldn't have been inflamed if they hadn't given her that magnesium shot.
That's the hard part, right?
You can sit around and
I know, man,
babies all day. You just don't know. But now I know how to walk through it, and that's by faith.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say, but if we lose a child, Chad, we lose a child. It's clearly the Lord's will. And I must walk by that. Not by fear.
Yeah.
So that's how we do it, and we trust in the Lord. We pray over our children. We were having our third child in October. We pray over that child and her health every day. So that's how we do it.
Dude, that's wild, man. I had no idea. So if anybody goes and looks at your Instagram, I've been all the way back to your very first post. And like I've scrolled through, kind of your whole journey. And man, when you look at that, nobody would know that all of this has happened in the midst of that story that's been told. And that's not a hit on you. Yeah. I don't blame, like, that's not what that page is for. Like, that's not what your Instagram page is. It's semi-educational. It's showing what you guys are doing. You have personal pieces in there, like you erecting the crosses at your farm and just really inspiring content to show people like this is what life can be like. I'm not, it's cool. Yeah, it's neat to hear your story. Like all of that was going on in the midst of all of this, that we can go back and scroll through and look at you building and you growing and you figuring things out. It's crazy, man. I had no idea. I had no idea that was going to be the story that was told up to this point, you know?
It is crazy, but one thing I like about being a Christian that I also liked about the military is you're told how to act. In the Army, there was no thinking. It's black and white. It's literally written down. You know what to do. You know how to dress. You just follow the instructions. It's the same way with being a Christian. It's written in the Bible. Every decision that you make, before you make the decision, find something in Scripture that either goes against it or supports it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, in a way, it's easy. Not that being a Christian is easy, because we are still sinners in heart, but you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's like going back to that having faith and not walking in fear. It's like, find literally almost any verse in Psalms,
Yeah, man. And, what you're saying totally resonates with me, dude, because I have experienced fear in the last 8 weeks of my life like I have never experienced in my life, dude. Yeah. And I'm talking about, dude, I don't care if I go all the way back to when I was jumping out of an airplane at 12,000 feet in the middle of the night over an ocean, doing a free fall jump into the water and linking up with swick boats and transiting to do over the beach, a dive into the fear I have experienced over the last 8 weeks has been a tremendous test.
Yeah.
Like, man, just, you're praying like, Lord, like, I know this fear isn't what you want me to be living in. Like, show me what is your perfect love that drives out this fear.
Yeah.
Teach me what that means.
Yeah. And I've loved, you've been sharing a lot of it, and, Brooke shares some of it. I've loved that you've talked about it. And I loved seeing you laying in the yard with them, sleeping, dude, I've found so much joy in y'all's, journey into parenthood.
Oh, praise the Lord, man.
To tell you that. And I wanted to, we've talked about it, but one of my questions I had was how has being a new father been for you? How would you explain it, describe it?
Well, it's completely transformative, 100%. Again, going back to it, scary as all get out, but that's my own immaturity that I didn't even know in terms of immaturity of faith that I didn't even know was in me.
Right.
Like, I thought I had it all good to go, man, and definitely now I see it as the highest possible calling that we as men could ever be called to.
Yeah.
And what's crazy, man, is mine and your story, it's similar, or it's the same in that sense of you didn't want children.
Yeah.
And I didn't either.
Yeah.
It's wild how much we have in common through our journey. Even through the military stuff and the depression and the trying to find purpose and not wanting children and living the majority of our adult life without faith, and all of it resonates with me big time, man.
Yeah, it is incredible, and I think we as parents, and especially as men and fathers, I've grown more since having children as a man and certainly as a Christian, just from having that first child than I ever have in my life. I've improved. Like, for instance, I'm calmer. You know, I was pretty hot-headed and real short-fused for a while. But once that young man starts, how should I say it, observing you, that starts to change you too.
You got to tighten up, yeah.
Even when they disobey, deliberately and intentionally disobey, you have to, not that I don't slip up, but you have to maintain your stoicness, you know. And I want to be, my first priority for my children, and my oldest is 4, I want to be the best example of a man of God to him as possible. And flying off the handle, getting red in the face, yelling at him is not the image that I want him to have of me.
Yeah, you nailed that, dude. Like that's the calling, right? Yeah. If you wanted to summarize, when I say it's the highest calling that we can be called to as men, it is being the image bearer of our Lord and Savior, our high priest, our Father in heaven, to your family.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Not that I don't discipline him, because I'm not sparing the rod.
Well, does the Lord not discipline you?
Yeah. So we do firmly believe in that. I can't, I don't want to see the type of guy he would turn out to be if I did not, I do not. But it's not out of anger. Like, a lot of times I got a spanking like every day until I was like 13 in my household. And a lot of times what I remember is my father being angry. And I was scared. Not that my child's not scared when he gets a spanking, because he don't want to get a spanking, but it's not out of anger. We'd go in there, we talk to him like an adult, pretty much, as much as you can. We talk about whatever he's done. Like, for instance, we have a 1-year-old now who's a little tank of a dude. I mean, he weighs almost as much as my 4-year-old. He's going to be a handful. I know that. And it's always, do you have children, Courtney? Okay. The second child's always like, my first is kind of cautious and timid. The second one doesn't care at all. Like, he's jumping in the pool. You know, we went to a pool the other day. My oldest barely wants to get in, fearful. The 1-year-old literally was jumping in the side, trusting that I'm gonna catch him and laughing at him. You know, it's nuts.
Dang.
But the 4-year-old Abraham, he'll get mad at Noah. Noah is our 1-year-old. We're keeping it Old Testament, obviously. And sometimes he'll hit him or something, or just rough him up or something like that. And so I went in, we set him in his room, gave him a few minutes, gave myself a few minutes. Went in there and we talked about being a peacemaker. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be known as sons of God. And what peace means, what being a peacemaker means. So, like, discipline is rooted in Scripture, first and foremost. You know what I mean? And then, we could give them a spanking or whatever we do. And that's, right now at least, I think that's the best thing I can do. Maybe I'm sure I will grow and learn and improve, but yeah, it's, and you have, like I said, you have to maintain your calmness.
Yeah. Well, discipline for the sake of growth or mentorship. The Bible would use the word reproof. Like, that's what, and I haven't got to that point yet, but like, in my mind, that's what I'm thinking. It's reproving them. It's what the Lord does to us. It's this discipline for the sake of sanctification.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is rooted in the scriptures, man.
But anyways.
Well, let's take a quick break.
Yeah.
And then I want to pick up when we get back to kind of going through, I guess, just the last few years since you've came to Christ and really digging in tangibly for people listening. Like, you've talked a little bit about how you guys started, but like tangibly looking back on it, where should you start with this?
Yep.
Like, what type of land are you looking for? What's this sacrifice going to look like? What's the first animal you need to get? Well, what's the first things you need to do? Like tangibly, because you have all this perspective, man, that I don't have of looking back and you saying, I did these things right. I wish I would have started on the fence before I started on the first batch of this, or, you know, how you lay out. What does that look like, man? Just to kind of paint at least a framework for people who who see the need and who want to move in the direction you guys have went, man, in a godly way, in you know, doing it for the right reasons now, and then even what it looks like to at some point potentially make this profitable, and talking about the conversation around the PMA and what that looks like versus what we talked about an hour ago, having to go through these USDA butchers and all this crap, man. So we'll get into that here in just a minute. Let's take a quick break.